much of a difference does having the correct or incorrect tyre matter? And does it make a difference if you've got the wrong tyre for the wrong job? Well, today, we're gonna find out. After razzing my way down a trail the other day, my brain started to ponder, could I do the same trail, but on the completely wrong tyres? Or what if I swapped them out for something completely inappropriate for the bike altogether? And that is exactly what I'm going to be doing today, all in the name of science, shall we say. I'm going to swap the wheels and, most importantly, the tyres between this, my cross-country bike, and the big old enduro bike I was just on. To see then what difference the correct or incorrect tyres does make, I've devised 3 experiments, shall we say. An uphill, a downhill, and a braking. Now, up first is the braking test. I have up there a specified starting point, which will be the same on every single one. And here will be the point at which I apply the brakes. So it'll be a constant each time. What I'm going to do is apply the brakes here, see how far it takes to stop, make a marker, and do that on all 4 versions. Now, first up, we're going to do it on the cross-country bike with the tyres that it comes with. Then we'll do it on the enduro bike to set sort of baseline markers, if you like, before we swap the tyres. So with that, to the top. Here we are then at our designated start. And we're off. Now, it's the same start, the same distance every single time. 24 PSI up front, 26 out back. And here's our stop. Right, about 3 bike lengths. Will that be any shorter with the enduro tyres? Okay, now it is time for the enduro bike. Those big enduro tyres. Now, I'm expecting this to obviously be a shorter braking distance. I've got more powerful brakes. 21 PSI up front, 23 out back. Softer tyres. Yes. It's about 1.5 foot shorter, but, oh no, possibly even more. We'll mark that up. That's definitely shorter. That's with its stock tyres on, of course. On to the next experiment. I think it's time to go uphill. Right, so that is braking done. Now for our next experiment, should we say. It's time to go uphill, and I've chosen a piece of trail here that's got a lot of nadgery little climbs, little sort of roots and bumps and uphill bits. So it should be a good experiment. We're going to do it on the enduro bike first. We're going to time it, and then I'll do it on the XC bike, sort of a controlled run. Compare the times and look at them, see what sort of difference there is, and then compare that to once we swap the tyres over. So let's get cracking uphill. Okay, enduro bike control done. Over to the cross-country bike. Okay, numero uno, XC bike, control number 1, XC tyres. See you at the top. Oh, God. Okay, that's the controls uphill done. Now to the controls downhill. Right, what comes up must go back down. Downhill runs, control time, should be around 1.5 minutes. It's a good old section of trail. See you in a mo. Right, that was the enduro bike and enduro tyres done. Now let's hit it on the XC bike. Yowzers, no thanks. I was not carrying the speed into there. Oh. Okay. That's the downhill runs, and the control run's completely done. So up there, you can see the braking distances. Right here, the times for the uphill And just down here, the times for the downhill. So before we head back up to do our switched versions, let's talk a little bit more about types of tyres. Meet the cross-country bike then. The weapon I'm on today is my Canyon Lux Trail. This is a 115 out back, 120mm up front, so it's sort of the modern era of cross-country bikes, if you like. And because it is that modern era, tracks are getting wilder, parts are having to keep up as well. So aboard it, we find full 29er, of course, carbon Reynolds wheels. Now, most importantly, the tyres. Now, XC tyres, sort of nowadays go from 29 by 2.25 on this bike up to about a 2.4, and that's exactly what I've got on this. Vittoria Sierras 2.4. This is kind of their blur between a cross-country tyre and a down-country tyre. So it's that slightly wider width and a slightly more aggressive tread pattern, but it's still that lightweight, thinner casing that you're typically going to find on a cross-country tyre to obviously keep the weight down. Now, a cross-country tyre also has to have slightly minimal rolling resistance, so it's going to have a lower tread profile, a slightly more rounded profile to it as well, to allow it to sort of carry that speed, quickly accelerate, but still get good grip where it's needed. Way down at the other end of the scale then is this monster, my Propane Spindrift. Now this is a 180, 190mm travel, sort of free ride super enduro bike, if you like. I mean, it's virtually a downhill bike. Now because of that, the tyres are extremely different to what's on that cross-country bike. These tyres, 2.6 up front, 2.4 out back still. Now, a lot of people still run a 2.6 out the rear as well. I like a slightly narrower tyre on there, but what makes these so different is, well, a few things. Casing, much tougher casing on an enduro downhill kind of tyre. Much thicker, much sturdier, much harder to sort of compress and conform, if you like. And it's because of that it needs puncture protection. The trails that you're going to ride this on are generally way rougher, way gnarlier, much higher speeds, so they need that extra sort of, like I said, protection in them. The tread pattern is going to be much more pronounced, much higher knobbles on them, and much more spread out to really bite into the ground. Rolling resistance is still a thing you'd consider, but it's not the be-all and end-all. You really want that grip over anything else. And compound, going on from that grip sort of thing, the compound on these tyres is a much softer compound. It's really squidgy to sort of mould itself around the ground and all the little sort of deformities in the ground, so it can get as much sort of traction as possible. But with that then, let's swap the tyres over and see what difference it makes. We're back then, and it's the first of our experiments. It's the braking test once more. The tyres have been swapped. That mighty 2.6 Vittoria Mazda Enduro casing is up front, and I'm expecting there to be a hefty improvement, shall we say. So let's get to it. Let's see what difference it makes. I'm expecting a shorter braking time. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed slightly different rotors. Don't worry, they are bedded in and the same sizes. Compatibility issues? Oh! Have a look at this. So that is almost the same as the first run on the Enduro bike, just ever so slightly longer. So will the Enduro bike with the cross-country tyres be the same, or is it actually going to take a little bit further? Let's find out. Okay, now this one, obviously more powerful brakes, but that skinnier tyre up front looks weird. It's very round. Here we go, into our braking zone. Cameraman Matthew in a precarious position. Oh my God. Look at that. That's further than the XC bike with Enduro tyres, but shorter than the XC bike with its proper tyres. Now, regardless of brake size, because I had what I think to me is obviously got more power on this in terms of braking, the issue being that obviously if I was to squeeze those anchors any harder, the front wheel is going to lose traction. Now you can see obviously when I did brake, the back end picks up because the most sort of force you're going to get through is through the front brake, the most braking power. So that's why that back end picks up. Interesting. So, you know, that's probably 1.5 foot longer than the Enduro bike with Enduro tyres. It's probably about 1 foot longer than the XC bike with Enduro tyres, and about 1 foot shorter than the XC bike with XC tyres. Who'd have predicted it? Some surprising and, shall we say, less surprising results in there. The one for me was just how close it was between the two different bikes, but both on the Enduro tyre. Very close, amount of inches in it, regardless of brake and sort of power and size. But anyway, it does mean now we've got to go uphill, and I think this is going to be really interesting. I think the XC bike up here is now going to fly because I think it's going to have that extra grip on the roots and the other sort of slippery section. But like I said, there's only one way to find out, so I'll see you at the top. I genuinely think the slightly lower pressures are going to make a bigger difference here. Yes, straight through. Is it going to be quicker though? That is the question. This is a Tekker's bit. Around the outside, oh, so much grip. Oh, okay, XC bike Enduro tyres done. Before I reveal the time though, it's over to the Enduro bike with XC tyres. Right then, it's time for the Enduro bike with the XC tyres. Now, am I going to struggle? Am I going to fly? We'll see you up on high. In theory, this should be a little bit slipperier because, well, you know, we're running slicker tyres, or faster, but they are lighter. So will that make it a little snappier on the climbs? Well, it's still a big bike, isn't it? Oh God, see, just dragging that bike up there is tough. Oh. Wow. Okay, I tell you what, let's get me breath back and crunch some numbers in a mo. Okay, my breath has been regained. Now that threw up some pretty interesting numbers. Our first sort of runs are controlled. So XC bike with XC tyres uphill was 39 seconds. Enduro bike with Enduro tyres uphill was 42 seconds, 3 seconds slower. Switch them around then, those tyres. So the XC bike with Enduro tyres went a staggering 5 seconds faster, 34 seconds in total. And the Enduro bike with XC tyres went 3 seconds quicker than it previous did on 39 seconds. Now the interesting number here is the fact that the XC bike managed to go 5 seconds quicker with the bigger, heavier tyre. Now what I'm going to put it down to, our sort of experimental piece of uphill we've got here is fairly short and fairly Tekker's, a lot of slippy routes. And that bigger volume tyre with that softer compound, I'm going to put down to giving it the extra grip and traction it needed, especially through those sort of nadgery, rooty, turny bits that you could see. The downside here is, I think, let's not get too carried away though, because if this was a far longer climb and it had sort of smoother fire road bits in, and let's take into account all types of climb here, of course. If it was a long fire road climb, that tyre would definitely be a lot slower and it would require so much more energy to keep the pace up as well. The Enduro bike on the XC tyre didn't surprise me too much. It was faster than its Enduro bike, Enduro tyre combo. You know, it's got additional rolling speed, should we say, less resistance, it's slightly lighter, and you've still obviously got that suspension front and rear to give you the traction. But with that then, we need to go downhill. Okay, we're at the top. It means downhill run time. Now, the intriguing thing I want to know here is, can this cross-country bike with Enduro tyres get anywhere near the time of the Enduro bike with the cross-country tyres? And how will that compare to our controlled times altogether? There's so much going on. I'm going to have to go down and find out. We'll see you in a sec. Okay, let's try. Oh, we couldn't do the high line last time. Woo-hoo-hoo! Oh my God, okay. That definitely felt faster. With these tyres, I was able to hit a line I couldn't on the first run. I carried more speed, so I sent the drop at the end there as well. So I definitely feel like that was quicker. How quick though? Well, you're gonna have to wait to find out, because we need to get back to the top for the Enduro bike with the XC tyres. Hell of a time from the XC bike there. Now, this is gonna be close, because I feel like this is gonna be limited, regardless of its better brakes, better suspension. The tyres, I do think, are gonna hold it back. But you know what? They ain't gonna hold me back. I'll see you in a mo. Ooh. Oh my gosh, okay. See that then? That's a good proof of the grip on the tyres. But anyway, that was a good run, and I do think the tyre switch has brought these two closer together, especially on the downhills. But let's look at the times. Okay then people, before we get into the results, why not like and subscribe to the channel to get all the latest and greatest from GMBN coming straight at you. But the results. On this side then, we've got all of our controlled results here, and on this side here, we've all got our swapped results. But let's add those downhill times in. Now, the cross-country bike with cross-country tyres was 1 minute and 31 seconds. The Enduro bike with Enduro tyres was 1 minute 22, 9 seconds faster. Switch those tyres up, so the results on this side are going to be the cross-country bike with Enduro tyres was 1 minute 27, 4 seconds faster. Now, I think that's because it opened up a couple of lines that I couldn't do before, and also that big drop at the end, so I carried more speed through. The Enduro bike with cross-country tyres was 1 minute and 24, so still 3 seconds faster than this version over here, but 2 seconds slower than what it would be with its Enduro tyres on. So which is actually faster in the long run then, or overall? Well, I'm gonna have to give it to having the right tyre for the right type of bike. There are sort of pros and cons to both, and switching it up, like we saw in the uphill where the XC bike with the grippier, bigger tyres absolutely smashed it, was sort of a pro to switching the tyres around. However, if you were to sort of extrapolate that and expand it over more hills, a longer distance, bigger hills and different types, like I said, rough and fire road, then I don't think it would be faster. Plus the added weight, the rolling resistance is going to kill you in the long run. That being said, if you want to go and smash laps here while still being on a light, nimble bike, it was actually really fun going up and down. To the big bike, the slightly thinner, lighter weight tyres did feel sort of sketchy underfoot. Remember, this is a big travel, much heavier, sort of burlier bike. So having a tyre that can support that, I think, is really important. And well, these aren't fit for purpose, if you like, for that application. They obviously really good down country, cross country tyres in their own regards. But yeah, having the right tyre designed for its purpose is definitely sort of much more applicable, I would say, at this end of the spectrum. But I want to know what you guys and girls think out there. Do you switch up the tyres? Now, we've got to remember as well, obviously, if we start putting bigger, burlier tyres on this, we start pushing that bike maybe beyond what it's capable of doing. Sort of a false sense of security there, if you like. And likewise, if we put lighter weight tyres on this and start hammering it down, we risk potentially doing damage to the bike or the wheel, something like that. But yeah, let me know what you think. Do you want to see more comparisons like this in the future? Comments are down below. Look forward to hearing from you. But for me, for now, I'll catch you later.